So this popped up on my feed, and of course, this ignorant Caucasian lady says that the larger it was, the better quality that slave was, and she's referring to the chain. So she's telling this Negro right here that, his chain represents slavery. And this is the problem I have with some of them. All they believe is our history starts with slavery. I mean, you can look at the snippet of the clip, but she just sounds real ignorant.
So the larger the chain, it's like it represents who you are. Do you realize that the reason you still wear chains is because you wore chains when slavery was in? So the larger the chain that the slave wore, whoever's buying that slave, this is terrible. The larger it was, the better quality that slave was.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So if I'm purchasing a slave, and I'm not, I'm just using it as an example, the larger the chain means, oh, he's a bigger, better worker. You didn't show emotion. You did not cry.
Can I keep it hot with you right now?
Yeah, seriously.
This is the deepest shit I've ever heard in my life.
I'm serious.
I've never heard this. So the bigger the chain.
Yes. Do you understand why?
I'm gonna take this up. That's crazy.
So it's programmed in your DNA, and you don't even realize how it's in your DNA. So even now, 200 years later, I'm saying 200, well, literally 200 since we are done with everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey.
But literally, we still in the same
boat.
Yeah.
And
I've been a slave like a
yeah, but you see what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and you don't even realize, but in your head, it's like, oh, these things, and they're programmed in your DNA. So you gotta stop that DNA.
So right here we have a depiction. Some people say it's Saint Maurice, but guess what? You know how many statues they have in Europe of the quote unquote blackamoor or Moorish people? The Black Knights. They always say, oh, that's just Saint Maurice. Like, one fucking so-called black or Moor was only one night during that time period. You had a lot of Moors or African, whatever term you want to use, that were knights, the Black Knights. And look at this fucking chain right here. You see this? Does this represent slavery? This is what they fucking do. They look at old depictions of our people in higher positions, not in servitude, and they say, oh, you got a chain on you. That's slavery. Man, get the fuck out of here.
So right here it states, during the medieval period, it is likely that Moorish knights, similar to other knights of that era, would have worn necklaces. Necklaces, like other jewelry, could have served several purposes, including display of wealth and status. Jewelry was a way to showcase one's wealth, particularly among the nobility, meaning what? The black nobility. In a time before banks or credit cards allowed for easy transportation of valuables, there's nothing new for the so-called black man to shine. Religious devotion. Many knights, regardless of their culture background, wore religious jewelry, including crosses or medallions of saints. Keyword medallions, like the so-called black man during the 80s or the golden era of hip-hop, medallions and chains. There's nothing new. Identification alliance. In the latter Middle Ages, knights in Europe adapted livery collars as a way to identify with a specific noble house or order. Like you see the NWA chain or the Death Row, same concept. These were often elaborately designed necklaces featuring medallions or other symbols worn on chains around the neck. Need I say more?
Why that brother probably needs to go talk to some black historians or so-called black historians or people that know, certain time periods about our history beyond 1619. Okay? Yes, Moorish warriors in medieval times likely wore chains in the form of chain mail armor. Chain mail, also known simply as mail, was a dominant form of armor used by knights throughout much of the Middle Ages. And this would include Moorish knights, especially during the Crusades. Mail was known for its flexibility and effectiveness against bladed weapons. It was typically worn over a padded garment like a gabeson to provide protection against blunt force trauma. Okay, as plate armor developed later in the medieval period, chainmail was still used, particularly to fill gaps between plates, provide flexibility, vulnerable areas like the joints, etc. But yes, they wore chains, not because of no damn slavery. So right here we have a depiction of Moors, or so-called black people, or knights, black knights. And look how they're dressed. As you can see right here, we have the medallion or chain. Does he look like a slave? No. But in their history, when they see so-called black people from other regions of the world, they only identify us as being enslaved. But truth be told, we ruled in those societies. We were not serfs or peasants. Right here, you have a portrait of, quote unquote, Mary and Jesus Christ. Now look who's bowing down or in servitude: the peasants or the serfs, the Caucasian, or some of them was known as the wild man. So right here we have the famous hip hop legend Slick Rick. I do believe he has British ancestry. So it's, it's pretty common. And once you know the history, it's understandable how the so-called black man likes to shine. Okay, with the earrings, the hoops, and the chains, there's nothing new under the sun. That's in the black man's, so-called black man's DNA, his genetic structure to shine, especially Jacob. I don't know what the hell that white lady was talking about. Right here you have hip-hop legend Rakim, same thing. Dookie chains, gold medallions, and all the other stuff that came along with that era of hip-hop. Okay, the consciousness and whatnot. And this is why that so-called white lady shouldn't be talking the way she talks, okay? Because she only pinpoints our history to 1619 in slavery, roots, Shaka Zulu, 12 years of a slave. That's all they programmed the Negro to believe here in the Americas. Slave, you was enslaved. When you look up the etymology of the word slave, it means Slav. They're the ones that applied that to us. Right here you have Germany, Coburg, and this is a monetary note, Star issue 1919, and look who's depicted on this note: a black knight or more. Right here, another black knight of the Holy Roman Empire. Germany founded in 800 AD by Charlemagne. Okay. And of course, they falsely identify him as Saint Maurice, but there were so many prominent black knights during the Crusades in the medieval, or quote unquote the Dark Ages. Right here, a German knight, 1550. What were our people doing in the 1500s? If you let the so-called white man tell you our history, we weren't doing anything. We didn't contribute. You have that fool Myron Gaines and some of those other idiots talking about the contributions of so-called black people. But this right here, no, she needs to shut her mouth. Okay, I don't know how she even got on this platform, but bro, you can do better. Peace.